Welcome back, everyone. I am here with Chad Hamlin, the owner of the Hamlin Group, located in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to Builder Stories, Chad.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, because this is going to be fun.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. So why don't you give us a little bit of the background, kind of tell us your story, who you are, what you guys do at the Hamlin Group.
Sure. So, my profession, I guess, so I went to school for architecture, moved here in 2002 from Midwest. Came here for a job in architecture, and I was really loving what I was doing. But after a while, it just kind of started to take a toll on me. So I really got back to my passion of building and started this business after, a few stints, different, kind of national companies. I started here in 2013, and we've been right here in town, right in Metro Atlanta since, focusing on, luxury remodels. We don't get too much into new home construction. I mean, we'd certainly love to and be happy to if the opportunity presented itself. But, my passion's always been, just kind of the more complicated remodels, things that require a little bit more thinking, just problem solving, so that's really where our niche is. And we've been real lucky here in Atlanta.
Awesome. So, luxury, high-end, remodels. Is that, like, do you really like the kitchens, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, or just additions, kind of all of it? Or is there like a real sweet spot within that you like?
So, our sweet spot right now is, master suite additions. We do a lot of outdoor living spaces. Of course, we get into the luxury kitchens, luxury baths. For our repeat clients and past clients, we'll pretty much get involved in anything. I kind of jokingly tell folks that, if some of our past clients need us to put a light bulb in, that's what we're going to go do. But, our passion is really the real high end, kind of the state of the art, bathrooms, kitchens, just really get into the details. Not just kind of more your, kind of try to stay away from some of the simpler stuff.
Yeah. So and when did you start this business?
2013.
2013.
So we just finished up year 10. Like I said, March was year 10 for us. So it was exciting. I thought in year 10, I thought I was going to have it all figured out. And year 10 was a doozy for us. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it was a little bit of a humility check that, hey, just because you've been doing this for 10 years here doesn't mean you've got it all figured out.
Yeah. So take us back to early couple of years. What was it like when you first got started? I assume you didn't jump straight to the high end. I mean, did you start with the smaller jobs? Yeah, tell us a little bit about getting going.
Yeah, it was talking about a lesson in humility. So at the time, I was fortunate enough to be able to work for a very large company, doing large commercial work, and lots of things that were going on at that time of my life. I had 2 young daughters. I had gone through a divorce. Kind of got started kind of getting my feet back on the ground again. There was an acquisition and some things that happened with the business, and one thing led to the other, and next thing you know, I'm basically unemployed, very unexpectedly. And I had toyed around with the idea a few years prior to that about starting this business, but I just had never really made the jump. And quite frankly, it was a pretty attractive thing, a pretty attractive job that I was in, position, so I didn't really want to leave. And so, I took some time off. Kind of thought about things. At that point in time, I mean, I'd like to think at that time I was old and had some experience, but that's 10 years ago. A lot's changed since then. And so when I came back, I thought, I'm kind of done betting on other people for my success. Succeed or fail, I wanted it to be based on my doings and on my efforts and my accomplishments or not accomplishments. And so, and try to get away from kind of the corporate side where, my future is basically dependent or decided, from some brass out in the state that I had, never even visited. So, I went from working on some very attractive, very large projects, with seemingly unlimited budgets and, to basically like, what now? I had to put some food on the table for my kids. And, but I'm a builder. I'm a builder at heart. I've been a builder my whole life. So I just did what, many of us have done and just picked up my tools, grabbed my truck and, went to work. And so my first job, honestly, was for one of my neighbors, close friends of mine. They needed a bathroom renovation, and it was crazy. At the time, I said, hey, I'm happy to do it. I'd love to do it and more than capable, but you're going to have to buy the materials, because I said, I've got all the labor and the tools, but at the time I couldn't afford the materials, and that was a very humbling experience for me. And so, that's where it started. And, from there, it's, just one thing led to the other. I just started leveraging relationships, friendships here. And, of course, I had the experience to do the larger projects, but, if you don't have the portfolio, to show them. I had a huge portfolio of commercial work, but I didn't have a lot of, big portfolio of luxury projects. And so, especially in residential. And, I kind of really got my start, if you will. One of our clients her and her family have become great friends of mine personally now, but at the time I was working with a lot of real estate agents and just kind of, it was a good source for me to get started. The houses go for market and sell. I mean, I'm, either fixing it for the buyer or fixing it for the seller. And I was doing all the stuff hands on myself. And this lady, she called me over. And I think I went over there to like install a closet rod or something. It was literally that simple. And while I was there, she asked me, she was just a ranch style house. And she said, hey, can you vault these ceilings and open this space up for me? And of course, my reaction, yeah, of course I can, no problem. I'm thinking, with who? Because it was just me, but, I was just, you kind of want to be you want to, what is the phrase, your smile and your attitude, your business card kind of thing. So I don't remember the exact phrase, but what it was, I said, yeah, absolutely. And so we figured it out. And that's been, I was back in probably 2014, something like that, maybe early 2015. And since then we've done, I don't know, 4 or 5 very large projects. We've got another one coming on that's in for permit right now. That's, we laugh. I said, there's only probably 10 square feet of that house that I haven't renovated, and so it's just, she's become a friend and a long-time client, so that's kind of where it started. It was very, very humble beginnings.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you really went over just to help her out, and then one thing led to another, and now, you're starting to do work for her,
sure.
Continually doing those projects. I mean, how did you find, like a team? I mean, do you guys, self-perform all the work? Do you leverage subcontractors, trade partners? Like, how do you actually get the work done these days?
That's a great question. And we've kind of gone, 360 degrees on that. Well, I should say that we have not gone back to the self-perform. As I mentioned, I grew up a builder. I don't want to say in the trades necessarily. When I say I grew up, my father, retired as a user builder for 47 years, I think. Still living, still doing well. But I learned a lot from him, so, when I say I grew up in the trades, I mean, I didn't really, that's not necessarily what I mean, but I'm very hands-on, very, very mechanically inclined. So for me to have a construction company that didn't self-perform was a very odd concept to me. So by default, we just started self-performing because that's, to me, that's what a builder was, that's what we were supposed to do. So, I started finding, just people from different places, recommendations, referrals, I just bump into people, just, what have you. And, that team would kind of mold itself and change over time, but we were self-performing. And so as we started to get a little bit bigger, and when I say bigger, I mean, from me to maybe 2 or, at most 3 at the time, I started needing some help, kind of doing some of the day-to-day, the routine tasks, receipts and, the job career. I thought I was so busy back then. I had so much stuff to do, looking back, like, what was going on? But I had a friend recommend somebody to me, who is, you haven't had a chance to meet her, but you will next year. She is an interior designer. She's amazing. She came on board with me as a kind of a office assistant, if you will, just going to do things. And she said, hey, my ultimate goal is to do design, which is what I'm trained for. I said, I know, but I said, I can't afford that. I said, I can afford you 1 day a week. And, that one day she made my life easier. And a couple of weeks later, I was like, ooh, maybe I can afford you 2 days a week. And pretty soon I just was like, wow, I can't go on a day without you here because of the help. And, you being here allows me to do X, Y, and Z. I was like, I need you here every day, and that's been a little over 8 years ago. So that's kind of how it started. And in terms of the self-perform, we continued on that path for a long time. But as we started getting into some of the jobs that were, I wouldn't say we were to the point where we could be really super selective on the jobs we were doing, but we were getting a little bit closer to that. And what I was finding is that, I was always committed to having my team get a full paycheck every week. I was always committed to that, whether or not we had work or not. And I found on a few occasions that we would get ourselves into jobs, into projects that I would have otherwise turned down. It either wasn't the right fit, or it was just something that I was doing just to make sure that money was rolling in. And we got into a few hairy situations with some clients that, quite frankly, we should have just ran from, but we didn't. And it took a couple of years for me to just really get it in my head that I don't have to be a self-performing contractor to be a successful contractor. And that was more of a mental shift for me. And once we made that change, it's been great. I think that's been probably 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago that we made that change. We've dabbled in it a little bit, every now and then. I do find it's hard in this business to be, completely hands off, to not have anybody here that's a doer. Every now and then you need a guy, you need a door guy, you need you need somebody to go over and punch out some trim. You just need to be hands on. So that's been a little bit of a struggle. But all in all, we're very happy. So I would like to consider ourselves we're strictly subcontractor based, but there's always a little bit of a gray area where we have to find somebody.
Sure. So sounds like pretty early on, you realized that you needed some back end kind of office, administrative help. So you found somebody and you kind of just sort of worked your way into being able to have them full time and being able to afford them,
correct,
on a full time role. What else does the team look like today? I mean, are there any other people on your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we still have Tanera, interior designer. She's still here, going strong. She's in some ways, she's kind of the face of the company. I mean, our clients love her. And so that's great. Then we also have, kind of from the office side, we have a longtime friend of mine. She handles everything from kind of HR to, accounts payable, accounts receivable, dabbles in a little bit of marketing stuff for us. Then we have Kevin, whom you met. He was at Connect this year. Kevin, we affectionately call him our Swiss Army knife. He helps us with estimating. He helps us with, anything you need from him, he helps us with. So, and it's great. Sometimes I was joking today, I got to keep him out of the rabbit holes because I'll ask him a question. Next, he jumps down he's chasing something down, but he's amazing. And then on the field side, that's one of the harder roles to fill. I was fortunate enough to be introduced to Tyler, also whom you met at Connect this year. He was a younger guy when I met him. He's so younger than me. He kind of came into trades. He had dabbled in kind of doing some things on his own, and he's like, "Look, it's not for me." He's like, "I just want to do what I do. I want to do it well. I want to get paid for it and have an opportunity for growth." And so I think he's been here 7 years or so now. So he's been a constant, kind of, I don't want to say grooming him. He's kind of already doing it, but he handles our field operations. And then, since then we've had, we have a couple of the superintendents that they're here. But that's a tough role to fill, especially with COVID. We dealt with COVID, and it was, I couldn't pay somebody for a resume, and it's just tough. But yeah, so we're a team of 7 right now, and so it's been a sweet spot. Although I'd like to get another couple more superintendents on board.
Sure. So it sounds like you had to go kind of a few years, sort of just solo owner operator, and then started to be able to kind of bring in some additional help. I mean, was there some sort of a turning point for you, or was there a particular year where you realized that you needed to get some additional people in there to sounds like probably help a little bit more on the job execution side?
Yeah, we were being reactionary, and I think I don't think it's uncommon, but we were being reactionary all the time, and we were spending so much time trying to focus on the problem at hand instead of trying to predict what problems are coming and trying to find ways to avoid those problems. And so it was a few years in where I think most business owners, I was still speak for myself, I feel like every day there's healthy fears that, man, what if the phone stops ringing tomorrow? What if the work stops coming in? And when I finally kind of got into my head that if you follow your passion, if you do the right things, if you build quality, if you're bringing quality people on your team, the phone's not going to stop ringing. It's going to be, you're going to be fine. And so when we stopped self-performing and we kind of stopped chasing the job because we needed to make payroll, we needed to cover salaries and what have you, it really allowed us to slow down and say, hey, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What do we want to chase? What do we not want to chase? Because there were days where, we didn't have, there might be a week where we didn't have anything to do. I know we had things to do, but we didn't have jobs to chase. We didn't have like fires in the oven and it allowed us to sit down and say, hey, the phone's not ringing much this week. That's great. Let's regroup. Let's gather. Let's try to meet. Let's try to figure things, figure out where we're going. And so that was a turning point for us. now looking back, especially into our experience with Connect, we thought we had figured out, 3, 4, 5 years ago, man, so now we're kind of reinventing things again and kind of re-envisioning things. So that was a huge turning point for us when we did make the change to not self-perform. And again, I'm not trying to convince anybody to not self-perform. I mean, again, that's near dear to my heart. It ultimately was the right decision for me and for my business.
Sure. No, I mean, I hear all the time. I mean, there's definitely a very good, healthy debate about, what works best for each person's, own business.
Sure.
And I think there's pros and cons to both. But, it sounds like you figured out that, being able to leverage, subcontractors and sort of play more hands-on with the, the sales and kind of project management side has been what's worked for you, and it's helped you scale.
Yep.
I think that's awesome. I mean, the other thing I heard you say though is, you took some time to sort of slow down to better understand what types of jobs and what types of work you really wanted to go after. And that helped you to realize that maybe you need to stop taking on some of the much smaller stuff that, just really isn't a good use of your time. It's not yielding very much for you, but really focus on trying to get some of those larger deals that are, better fit for you and going to, feed you at a much larger, piece of it at a time.
And the other thing too is, when you're talking about scaling. So, we're still trying to scale, right? But, years ago, our bread and butter, the nice, bathrooms and, smaller projects. But at that time, we had brought in, a number of folks, so our team had gotten a little bit bigger. So we were a little bit top heavy. And so, in order to feed the machine with a bunch of small bathrooms, you have to bring in a bunch of small bathrooms, and I think anybody who does, bathroom projects and even small kitchens, there are a lot of moving parts and they move very quickly. And if you don't have it properly scheduled out, if you don't have it properly, sequenced, you can really get yourself upside down real quick, especially if you're a top heavy company. So we started looking more at we started seeing that larger projects, a little bit more slow to move, a little bit, the planning takes a little bit longer. Same a lot of parts and pieces. It's just the tasks are spread out a little bit further. So it's just not as rapid paced as some of these smaller jobs. So we were, I used an example years ago. I'm like, I would rather have $1 million job, than 10, $100,000 jobs, because it's so much work and so much, so many tasks. And so it's so rapid paced and it was very difficult to manage.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, what's your sales process look like? And or maybe even before that. So, where are your leads coming from? And then kind of once you get them into your pipeline, like how do you manage the sales process and all the way through to starting work with them?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I mean, I started just me, it's just a very personal, very one-on-one relationship that I had when I was going out to meet with these folks. And a lot of our clients that we have today are clients we've had since year one, if you will. So the relationship, I guess the challenge that I've had is the relationship that comes in here usually has started with me along the way somewhere.
Yep.
A referral from somebody to me directly. We've met, I've been fortunate to have a lot of relationships here. I've met a lot of great people, a lot of great industries here in Atlanta, and it's a big city. So, again, if you do the right work, word spreads fast. And so the struggle that we've had is people often come in here, they're looking for me. They want to talk to me. And it's not that I'm better than anyone. I mean, my team can handle it too, but they want to talk to me. So it's been a little bit of a struggle to get away from that. And not that I don't want to talk to the clients. I love talking to clients, but it's hard. And I can't grow if I'm having to be every single place, every meeting every day. So, putting team members in positions to allow them to stretch and to allow them to kind of grow and succeed and quite frankly fail sometimes has been a big part of that. But generally speaking in sales, I mean, clearly I'm a big part of the upfront sales, but what you don't see behind the scenes is I go out and do the handshaking and the baby kissing and all that stuff. But the team behind here, they're really the ones that are helping me get all this stuff done, because there's no way we can keep up with the workload that we have if it was just me,
Sure.
coming here doing it all by myself. So that's where guys like Kevin, Desai, Tyler, Whitney, they all come in to play to help us get that done. As far as the sales, process, it's been a little bit, I hate to say moving target, but as we've grown and matured, we've used some other, we had to kiss some frogs before we saw JobTread. We had to, use some different things and different programs. And, we thought that they were helping, but they kind of led us down a little bit different path. So our sales process is changing now, much to the help of you and your team, which has been great.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing though is, again, it's something that you're continually working at and evolving, as you need to make changes or shift, or, again, it sounds like, a lot of it was all you in the beginning, but you've built a team around you based on the things that that you need to put in place to help you scale the business. I've seen a lot of people who will, they'll overhire early on and think that they need to build out this massive team before they really do.
Right.
And it sounds like you've done a good job of sort of controlling your growth in regards to, to building that team out. Obviously, it sounds like you've done really well there at that. But you still got to continually kind of relook at and rethink, every year, however often you need, when you start to feel like things are kind of getting bottlenecked. Kind of when you take a step back and say, okay, here's what we're doing today. What can we do tomorrow to make that process a little bit more efficient,
For sure.
a little bit more effective?
Yeah.
That's something I've always been very impressed with you, Chad. I mean, I think you clearly put a lot of thought into what you're doing and bring strategy to it instead of just sort of firing by the hip. It's really well thought out from what I've seen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I feel the same way about you guys. One of the challenges that I've had in kind of trying to extract myself from some of those situations that, on the early side, again, when I started off, I mentioned, I'm a doer by trade, by nature. When I started, I was the architect, right? And that was one of the things that I had to really utilize. I mean, it was really, thanks to my, kudos to my parents, because they really pushed me to get my license. Because there was a time when I was in school where I just don't know. I just don't know if this is what I want to do. And, my dad always said, get your ticket, go get your ticket, meaning just get your license. If you don't want to do that forever, that's fine, but you're going to fall back on it. So thanks to them, that's what I did that. But that was kind of my sales pitch when I first started was, I'm approaching clients to say, look, I am an architect and I am a builder, and I can do everything. I can do it all in the house. I can do all these things, because at the time I was there's just me. Well, there for several years, I was still the architect. I was still the builder. But then as things started to grow and it started to scale, I mean, it's hard for me to pay somebody to do something that I can do myself. It's always been that way for me. So it's been real hard for me to really come to terms with the fact that I am now running the business and I have to stop doing the business so that I can actually grow and run my business. And so I've had to try and step away from the architectural piece. Yes, I still hold my license. It's all great, but I don't do that. We have folks call in and say, hey, will you design some house plans? Yes, I can. No, I won't. That's not what we're doing. So bringing other team members in, bringing other, other industry partners that we've met to do the things that I used to do, and they can then focus on them. They can do them in a better, more dedicated fashion than I can, because I'm not as distracted. And it allows me to, to help scale the business and start doing other things that work, make the positive changes around here. So,
yeah, I think that it's something that all of us entrepreneurs really struggle with. It's kind of going from wearing all the hats, knowing that you can do it all, and you'll do it the best, and it'll get done exactly how you want it. But that just doesn't scale. And so I think it all really comes back to first you got to build a great team of people around you who you can trust. And then once you've got that trust and you've trained them and you're confident that they'll be able to get it done, that's when you got to learn to delegate. And I mean, I'm first staying right here. I'll tell you, I struggle with this every day to delegate, even though I know I've got a great team around me. I think there's just that natural, desire or drive to want to do it all, but you just sort of run out of time. Yeah. You run out of the ability to do it all. So
sure.
Yeah, that's, I think it's very common, struggle that a lot of us have running businesses.
Well, and I'm by nature a little bit, a night owl. I'm a workaholic. I hate to call myself that, but it's very much true.
Yep.
We figured out a pretty decent balance with my family, and my wife, she's a school teacher, so we have our balance, family time, whatnot. But everybody goes to bed early or goes to read, and then I'm in my office. I mean, you and I've had many conversations at wee hours of the night. But understanding that, there are limits on what I can get done. And because again, I'm not I hate to say that I'm a micromanager. I have been cautiously aware of that for the last 4 or 5 years. So I try to stop doing that, and I try to delegate, like you said. But I can only do so much. There are only so many hours in a day. So at some point I have to stop myself and say, okay, I know that I can do this task over the next 15 or 20 minutes. And I also know that if I hand this task off to somebody else, it's going to take 2 to 3 hours. That's a hard thing for me to rationalize in my head. But it's necessary. It is absolutely necessary. And so it's something I've had to be very conscious of.
Yeah, I mean, people, they've got to get the experience and get the reps in. And so sometimes, it does take a little bit longer those first couple times, but eventually, as they get better and better, they can, get faster and faster.
And also important to note, they've got to be able to fail. You have to let them fail, and because like I said, failure's okay as long as you learn from it.
So how do you handle whenever you see some sort of a failure mistake? What's it look like for the?
Sometimes I handle it sitting in my truck, just humming around why I didn't do it myself in the first place. That's sometimes how I handle it. But in all seriousness, it's where I have tried to get better about handling it is trying to be very clear about what my expectations are up front. And one of my previous supervisors back in my last company, he said, always look in the mirror first. If there's a problem, look in the mirror. If you're the supervisor, try to figure out, what could I have done to make this better? What could I have done to prevent this misstep, this failure, whatever you want to call it? And oftentimes, if you're being honest with yourself, or if I'm being honest with myself, I'm saying, okay, well, I set the expectations based on if I was giving the expectations to myself, but I wasn't giving the expectations to myself. I was giving the expectations to somebody who maybe hasn't done this before, or they haven't done it as much as I have. So next time, be a little bit more descriptive, be a little bit more, maybe a little better outline, maybe give them a little bit more time. And so by doing that up front, it has allowed me to then have something to kind of measure at the end. So if there's a misstep, if it wasn't quite right, it gives me a tool to sit down with somebody and say, these are the expectations. This is what I had hoped that you would do. Let's go back and review them and see where we can do better next time. So looking in the mirror to make sure that I'm trying to deliver my best self, my best outline from what my expectations are, has just given me a tool to help measure their success and then, help make it better in the future.
Yeah. One thing, you mentioned earlier how you came to JobTread Connect this year and had, a lot of takeaways that, I think one of the neat things that I saw with you, this was your first year attending, but, a lot of times people, the business owner will kind of come, just themselves that first year. And then, the subsequent years, they start bringing more people on their team. I really appreciated that, you brought a couple others with you. And that showed me that, again, you've already kind of had that transition where you realize, you're one team and you've got to, develop everybody together. And when you kind of go through those experiences, it helps you level up as a team. And, again, your guys were definitely, sharing some of the early days and how it's, gone the Chad Hamlin show to now it's more of a team-based approach. And, they just very much appreciate, though, that you're focused on helping them, become the best selves that they can be. Because ultimately, I think that's how you win as a team, is by investing in everybody and making sure that everybody's on the same team, and that you guys can grow and develop together.
For sure. Yeah. Like I said, there's no way that I can do what we do by myself. And to bring those folks along, again, and they were from two different walks of life here, kind of, at least as in terms of their roles here. Tyler, was mainly focused on the field side, scheduling, tasking. We kind of subdivided into the work sessions. Kevin, you kind of affectionately call him our chief nerd around here sometimes. He likes to get in the weeds. He likes to get into, understanding, the inner workings, look under the hood of JobTread and see what we could do to make it work for us. And so, he really enjoyed a lot of those classes. But, then we found ourselves coming together for so many of the keynote speakers, so many of the different learning sessions. It was just a really, really enjoyable time. My biggest regret is I didn't bring more people, so, we're most definitely committed for 2025 and looking forward to it.
Awesome. So what are some of those big, takeaways that you feel like you walked away with, and what are you looking to implement, for this, year 2024 and beyond?
We, I guess I had a little bit of a kind of an awakening, if you will, just a moment, probably, I don't know, maybe November or something. It was late last year. where it was actually my CPA had asked me a couple of questions, and it's kind of jokingly, you wanted me to log into something financial. And I was like, I don't have my log into that. Like, you let me have it. He's been my CPA for 10 years. He says, what do you mean you don't have your login to X, Y, and Z? And so it was really at that moment that I thought, I've been so busy in being the builder, being the estimator, being the architect, being all the, like you said, wearing all the hats. And I had inadvertently, when somebody here in the company could make my life easier by taking on a task, I would just, push it over and say, okay, here, thank you for taking this over. Thank you for lightening my load. And it's not that I forgot it, but I was like, okay, you got it. Kind of hot potato. You got it. And then stayed that way. And I had lost touch with a few key things in my business that I really needed to get a hold of again. So that was before Connect. I didn't really know what I was getting into when I went to Connect. To be honest with you, when I was in commercial construction, I did all the conferences, I did all the shows, I did all the things. I mean, I got burnt out. I traveled not a lot, but I did a fair amount and it was gone. And I just hadn't done much of it since I've started my company. And that was the first conference, whatever it is. I mean, user conferences, first thing like that I'd done since I started my business. So I didn't know what I was going to get into. And when I got there, I'll be honest, I was thinking it's going to be more, more training related, more. I mean, I just didn't know. I was just had no idea what we were getting into. So upon arrival, you kind of live in your bubble, right? We all live in our bubbles, and I think, hey man, I've got my things figured out. I'm good. I'm here in Atlanta. I'm doing my thing. Everything's working well. And then I got there, and around, I don't know, maybe 500 people I think were there. I don't know what the final tally was, but you realize, wow, these are 500 of some of the best people in the country who do what they do. And you realize real quickly, okay, well, I have my stuff a little bit more figured out than they do, but that's okay. And then you look over and wow, there's a whole other group over there. They're way more advanced, than I am. And so that was an eye-opening experience for me that there were so many people there that had the same concerns, the same questions, the same struggles that I did. I didn't even know I had until we kind of started talking out loud. And that was huge for me. And I came back a changed man. I mean, I was so just blown away by the experience and the connections that I made and the ideas and the concepts and the things that I wanted to bring back, to my team. And you probably heard the story, man. I was so drained by the end of the day 3. I literally Ubered us to the wrong airport. I mean, I couldn't even function. I was I was not firing on all cylinders when I left there. I was just so overwhelmed with information, But my biggest takeaway, I guess, from a pragmatic standpoint was, know your numbers, right? I can't remember who coined that term. I think I remember it was one of the keynote speakers, but it just resonated with me that, hey, don't let your business run you, run your business, right? And we've all heard that, and that was an eye-opening experience for me. And we just came back and just started implementing things left and right, which is great. The hard part is, when you come back, it's not like you can just snap your fingers or wave the magic wand and say, okay, we're going to do it the different way now. You're still doing it the old way, which is frustrating because there's a better way to do it, but you gotta kind of crawl out of that hole a little bit and fix things before you can, so it's a slow process, but we've made some huge changes.
Well, at least you had a couple other people here with you that sort of understand kind of where you're coming from now versus showing back up and trying to flip everything over. That can obviously cause.
You are absolutely right. Coming from, like I said, going back to my previous experience, job costing wasn't really it was definitely a thing, but it wasn't something we had to focus on necessarily because there were so many practices, so many, so many measures in place and people and checks and balances that it was kind of hard to mess up your job costing. And so for years, since I've started my company, I've just never felt like we had a great handle on job costing. And of course, I'm just trying to hammer into my team, hey, this is important. Well, when we got to Connect and specifically Tyler, he was there listening to some of these and just see how, there's a big topic there at Connect because a lot of us struggle with it. He came up to me and he said, man, he's like, I get it. He's like, I see what you mean. From that point, it really, once it clicked with them, now it's been a lot easier. Now it's more infectious here that it's like, now it's expected, and that happened very quick.
Now there's something about, when others see other people and hear from other people besides their boss,
yes,
how important something is. It no longer feels like, oh, that's, I'm being told that I have to do this just because that's what the boss wants. It's, oh, now I see the value and the importance of doing that. And, I think that's such a good, pivotal transition point so that people can really understand the why behind the things that, you're asking for and that you want to make sure are getting done.
Sure. And I think as as builders, I mean, we want to be measured. We want to know how well we did at the end of a job. And sometimes we get very granular, but how, we put these allowances in, how do we do? Was it a good guess? Was it a bad guess? Did we, how did we do on our budget? Did we, we over budget, we under budget? And I think it's kind of boil it down. It's almost like a game. I mean, it could be an expensive game at times, but it is a game to understand, hey, wow, like let's see how many job costs we can get in here. Let's see how tight we can make our purchase orders. Let's see how well we can write our, our scopes to make sure that we get through a project as quickly and quickly and efficiently as possible. And that was kind of a concept that was, like you said, it was coming from me and not being driven by the team. And now that's shifting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always better to sort of proactively try to learn and implement these strategies, for the, to hopefully preventatively, prevent a disaster. I mean, a few episodes back, we had James Miller on here who, again, successful builder, had been doing a lot of projects, but he got himself into really two situations where he ended up taking a massive loss. And those losses were, just because he didn't have a clearly defined scope of work. He didn't have, a great sort of process built in to make sure that, that he was tracking and to prevent those losses from happening. And, there were such big losses that, ultimately it ended up, racking up a massive amount of debt for him, like, over $1 million debt, and it just kept compounding.
Sure.
And it's like, I hear these stories and it's like, man, like this is why it's so important to do the job costing and to do the extra work that it takes to make sure that you're tracking and that you're hitting those budgets. You're trying to prevent that one big, disaster. I mean, that so many other people that would have sunk their business immediately. James got an incredible story about how he has like literally now spent years digging himself out of that hole and hopes to hopefully by the end of this year be 100%, free and clear of that debt. But like so many times I hear of just one big mistake, it can cost you everything.
Sure.
And it takes practice, it takes hard work, to make sure that you don't let that happen to you.
You hit on two things there that really resonated with me. We had some of those experiences ourselves. I can name, a couple of different projects over the last several years that have been, I mean, not millions of dollars, right? But they've been, definitely tens of thousands, of hardships and losses on outing, but we didn't have that job costing in place. So as I sit here today, I know the pain, I know the struggle, I know the fact that we're just writing check after check after check to just try to get through this job, but I can't tell you how much we lost on that job, right? And that's frustrating. I don't want to go back and relive it. I don't want to go back and try to figure it out. It's water under the bridge, but it sounds, and I don't know that person personally, but what it sounds to me like, he probably did the same thing we did. In those instances, what I have found is the most important thing to do is you got to do the right thing, no matter what. You don't let it. I mean, it's hard to not let it get you down because obviously when you're talking about that kind of money, I mean, the money's real, right? At some point, you have to throw the red flag up and get some real help. But for us, we were fortunate enough that we've had a few of these projects where we just kept going step by step, doing the right thing. If it meant, ripping out a shower, a $30,000 shower, which is an example we had. I mean, I was personally wrote a check for $38,000 to fix a mistake that could have been preventable. It could have been prevented by a tile setter, but it was the right thing to do. And I just knew in the back of my head, my reputation is based on that. And I know the $38,000 on that one particular job that sticks out of my head. That was a very tough check to write.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that right now. What I do feel is the fact that I got through it. The homeowner shook my hand at the end and said, hey, let's, this was a rough one, but we got through it. And there was no bad press. I didn't go back and ask the guy for a raving review. He's got a beautiful project, cost me a fortune, but the reputation stayed intact. And that to me was worth a heck of a lot more than the $38,000 at the time. So just keep doing that. And that's been my mentality. It doesn't mean that now that we are job costing, now I get a little bit irritated if this kind of stuff happens. So like, why are we letting this stuff happen, in those situations? But yeah, it's important. That was a piece that was missing from us for a long time, and I'm glad to have it back.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's if you can catch it in real time, you got so many more options to try to course correct.
Sure.
Whether it's, change orders or going back and explaining the situation, the unforeseen circumstances, trying to work with your subs or suppliers, like, whatever it may be. But
Sure.
when you don't have it documented and you're not doing the job costing there, again, you're just, it's a hope and a prayer that, at the end of this thing, it's all going to play out. And, unfortunately, that is just not how you build a scalable, successful business. And, I mean, for James, I mean, again, it was several $100,000s that, he then had to go get, cash advance, taking out money. And then, the interest is what kept compounding on him. And, at the end of the day, though, the thing that I just admire the most is that he did the right thing and he stood by his commitment, as rough as that was for him. At the end of the day, exactly what you said, Chad, like your brand, your reputation, the who you are and who your business is, that's the thing that's going to be around forever. That's the test of time. And that is what is ultimately going to make you a great business, or it'll ultimately, probably be your demise.
Sure.
And, taking a loss this year or that year, those can be overcome, but a blow to your reputation is something that, it can be very hard to overcome.
Yeah. And as you mentioned scaling, it's one thing for me, for me to believe that in my core, right? I know you believe that in your core, sounds like he does as well. But as you scale, you have to bring people in, who are going to stand by your side and be part of your business that also believe that. Because if you're going to scale eventually, I start getting more and more removed from things like that. And if you don't have people on your team that understand that, hey, our reputation, I mean, yes, it's my name on the door. Yes, it's my name on the sign, but it doesn't matter. It's this Hamlin Group, right? It's group for a reason, because it's not just me. It's the people who are in this building that are, it's all about, it's our products that we're turning over. And if they don't believe it, if they don't take to heart that we don't ever put profit over quality or over doing the right thing. Yeah, of course you want to make money, but if you don't have the right people on the bus, I know that saying is used a lot, but if you don't have people who believe what I believe, then eventually you're just going to grow and grow and grow, and then you're going to become so detached from it that you lose sight of who you are.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other really interesting, takeaway that it sounds like you had from JobTread Connect was that, again, there's this community of people, and I see all the time, and I mean, you always hear, entrepreneurs and business owners that, they feel like it's very lonely at the top. And, I think that doesn't have to be the case though. Whatever it may be, like there's always going to be a group of others. There's others out there. And I always try to encourage entrepreneurs, especially, to like, go find that group, go find that tribe that you relate to, and that are going through the same things that you're going through, or maybe they've already gone through them. There's so much value in finding these networks that you can tap into and become part of, because like you can learn from others. Hopefully you don't have to go through and make all of the same mistakes and take all those hard knocks.
For sure.
You can just, learn why, that happened to them and what they did to prevent it and what you can do to hopefully prevent it as well. And, I think that's been one of the really neat things about this, JobTread community, is that, we have such a great group of people that want to help each other. And, as they say, rising tide lifts all boats, but even if it's not the JobTread community, I mean, there's tons of, coaching groups and networks and people out there that, again, they want to help others. And I think when you participate in that, and you take the time to give back, it comes back to you, so many times over because of that.
Yeah. As passionate as you are about what you were just talking about, I'm telling you, my feelings on that subject are tenfold on that. And what I mean by that, when we were going through our tough times, when we were, as I mentioned, year 10 was tough for us, because we had, I hate to say the term, bounced around. It was every move was done with intent. It was always, we thought it was the right move in terms of, which program we were using, which software, which process do we think? And it was a tumultuous time. It was tough because, start, stop, reinvent here and reinvent there. And we were tired just as a team, because we got the construction side of things, but then we're also battling some internal demons here with trying to figure out who we are. And I just, so many times, I just wanted to reach out and just call somebody. I just want to, like, man, anybody. I just want to talk. I need to talk to a trusted resource. So, somebody here in town. I have a lot of friends who are builders. They do new homes. They do a different sector than we do. Everybody was it's so protected of what this is prior to JobTread. Everybody was so protected of, I want to talk to you about how we do our markups and our fees or how we're doing this because, man, you may come over to my city and take my business. There's almost 7 million people in this city. There's plenty of work for everybody. So I didn't have that resource. And funny enough, through another software, I met somebody, Steve Miner. I met him through one of the forums. We'd actually never even met until Connect, but heck, we'd been talking on the phone, for months prior to that. But that was really my first introduction to having a sounding board to just ask some questions to. And so then you kind of get to Connect. And one of my favorite memories from Connect, one of my favorite experiences, was so informal. I don't remember if it was on I think it was day 2. It was in a big conference room there. And it was afterward, we just kind of broke out into small groups. It's like whoever you were sitting next to, we were sitting there and it was haphazard and there were chairs all over the place and nobody knew anybody. And we just started talking. There was no agenda. We just started kind of like just blah, everything that's on our minds, just started asking questions and then just led this conversation. And I was like, wow, that was when I walked away and thought, wow, I'm not the only dude that has these struggles, these pains, these heartaches, these challenges. And so the community that has come from JobTread, JobTread is amazing. You know how I feel about JobTread, but the community that has spawned from that for me and for so many others is it's immeasurable. This afternoon I'm part of now 2 or 3 roundtables, and we have a meeting this afternoon that's not even related to JobTread. But it's a roundtable of like-minded businesses from all different states, and we're just going to be having a conversation, Yeah. And that all started because of what you guys have got going on. So that has been a humongous impact to me personally and to my business.
Yeah, those that was the roundtable event that we had at Connect. It's so interesting how again, people are very guarded when it's within their local community because they feel like, oh, that's my competitor, and but it's like you got to have this abundance mentality. There is enough work out there. There's not enough supply to be able to come in and deliver. And so I don't think that whole let's stay guarded and not help each other, like that's not the right approach. Like that's not how you're really build a better business. There's so much that you can learn from each other. And, again, I believe, at the end of the day, competition can be actually good. I would rather, a prospect be focused on, deciding, who am I going to go with instead of, am I going to go with this? Am I going to do this at all? Yeah. I want them to make a decision one way or another, not just indifferent and sit there and do nothing.
Yeah. It not only does it take some of the guard down for folks outside of our area, but it took the guard down for some people inside of our area. So an interesting story. So we enjoy our partnership with NARI. They have their Contract of the Year awards every year. It's a lot of fun. We've been fortunate enough to win some awards. And so this past November, there's another company here in town. They're a little bit north of us, but it was, like the awards, it was us and then them and us and then them. And I didn't know them. I certainly knew the name, but I didn't know who they were. And lo and behold, they're at, I didn't look at them as competitors necessarily, but clearly we're in the same market sector because it's, just a war, we're just bouncing back and forth. It was mildly humorous. I meet them and Connect. I talk to him all the time now. We share ideas, we share stories. If we do the same thing, are we a competitor? I don't think so, but it doesn't matter. There's a mutual respect there. I could call him up right now and say, hey, what do you think about this, this, and this? And he's going to tell me, and I didn't have that resource before. So, and then also, I want to be that resource to him as well.
Yeah, that's great. So look, as we wrap up here, I'm curious, Chad. You've been at this, over 10 years now. What would you say has been, some of the biggest challenges that that you faced when you reflect back over those 10 years, and what do you wish you would have known when you were starting out? That now that you may have done a little bit differently to try to have made that a smoother process for you.
Yeah, it's a great question. As I said, for me, when I started, it was, kind of very much ready, fire, aim, because I was in a situation, I needed to get myself out of the situation. And so I did what I needed to do. Looking back, if I could go back and talk to myself 10 years ago, and like Mike Claudio spoke to this, and a lot of the keynote speakers did, have a plan, set a mission. It doesn't necessarily have to be super detailed. It doesn't have to look something like, polished that you're going to hang up on the wall. I didn't have a plan. I didn't necessarily write anything down. I was just basically going on my experience, on my work ethic to try and succeed. But my advice to myself then and to new people, take a minute, write some things down, get some sort of a plan together, get some sort of a direction together so that you can measure and help guide your ship so that you're not just bouncing around going from one thing to the other. Now, of course I've done lots of different jobs, but I wish I had a plan and it might have saved myself some heartaches, So take the time to do that. The other challenge that I think all of us business owners face, the business to some degree is easy. It's managing the people. That's where it's hard because,
Yep.
numbers are numbers, documents are documents, process is process. But when you're dealing with people from all different walks of life, different experiences, different expectations, and really trying to, you're the business owner, you're the therapist, you're the whatever. You wear a lot of different hats. And so that's been the hardest part. So I don't necessarily know how to prepare for that. It's just more something to kind of be on the lookout for as you build your business.
Yeah, that's great advice. Coming up with a plan, is so important. Being able to track, your progress too. Every year you should come up with a new annual budget.
Okay.
Have monthly goals. Because if you're not tracking, then you have no way to know, did you hit your goals?
Right.
Where did you miss? Did you underperform on this, overperform on that? Like, what do you need to do different?
Sure.
You have to have a plan in place to continually grow and improve.
Yeah.
And then, again, your team is everything. The people that you surround yourself with, they are going to make or break your business. And, I think, the best thing that you can do is take your time to make sure that you're hiring the best people that you can.
That's right.
And I think that goes into, knowing exactly what role, what are the responsibilities that person is going to fill, and what are the traits that you're looking for that are going to set them up for success.
Sure.
I've always, been a big believer of, hire slowly, fire quickly. But, again, I think it's very important that you take your time, to really vet them and make sure that they're not only qualified skill-wise, but also going to be a good fit for the company and the culture. Is this someone that, you want to be able to hang around and have a beer after work with? You want to get to know, their family. Like, are they, going to be here for the long run? It's so important to build a great team that, you got to take extra time.
Sure.
At JobTread, we do, a pre-interview, kind of get to know them a little bit. If they're a good fit, then we give them an exercise, and then we bring them in. And then after that, we have them do an assessment. And then after that, we'll usually take them to lunch. It's like we have a very in-depth process. And, a lot of people kind of get, turned off by how much it takes. And then some people are spending, 15, 20 hours, going through this process. But like, that's how you hire great people. And in the end, that time up front is going to save you so much time, down the road, because, one bad hire, where you invest a bunch of time and energy into training them, getting them up to speed, and then, hopefully, them being productive. Well, if it doesn't work out, you just took a huge loss,
Right.
From a time perspective, and hopefully not worse, mistakes and, kind of other issues.
I would take that one step further. Having your internal team that is a bunch of aces is very important, but also, we work with a lot of trade partners. So as you said, the people you associate yourself with is hugely important. If you're going to bring a trade partner into your fold, if you're going to make them part of the Hamlin Group or whatever the company is, get the best that you can, because they are your brand as well, whether or not they realize it or not. And so you want to make sure that you're working with team members that are going to provide their best. And, and that's, especially in the trade partner market, it's tough because you've got the ebbs and flows and who's in business and who's out of business. And so, we have a few core folks that we've worked with for a long time. Some people come, some people go, but that's just as important as your internal team. And the second part of that is, I guess kind of one of the other, some advice I would give is don't be afraid to charge for what you're worth. That's a hard, because so many times it's from so many years, I'm like, oh man, I want to get the job. So, you start marking down your fee. Okay. I give some, okay, yes, latitude, do that for a few years if that's what you need to do to get your feet wet. But at some point, you have to make a decision. Okay, I'm going to charge what I'm going to, what I'm worth. And if I don't get that job, okay, fine. I didn't get it. Move on.
Yep.
The flip side of that, that door swings both ways. If you're going to charge what you're worth, which is presumably, if you're going to do that, presumably you're charging, premium rates, you got to back it up. You can't charge premium rates and then give subpar performance, because otherwise that ship's not going to sail very, very far. So you got to have both. And so that's always been something we try to keep our eye on.
Couldn't agree more. I think people really struggle with that too, thinking that, they got to, just discount and come in and they, trying to win every job on price. All that's going to do is turn around and force you to pinch, how much you're paying your guys, or you're going to take the hit. I mean, you gotta set your price based on your worth, and, you got to stick to that. And it takes, paying people good. If you want to get the top end people, you got to be able to afford to pay them that. And, sometimes you got to walk away from jobs, or sometimes you just got to hold the line. Some people just want to haggle you on price and they want a deal, but at the end of the day, they really want to get the best contractor and get the best quality work, and so when you hold the line and you just say, look, our price is our price, that can, that can still end up being a deal for you.
We've had clients who have they've respected that. Some people just like to haggle just to haggle. And sometimes, hey, walk away. There's no such thing as the last good deal, So just, if it's not right, then it's not right. But we had to take some lumps to learn that. So I suspect most have.
Well, look, Chad, I appreciate you coming on here, sharing, the behind the scenes, giving us the raw, the real, what it's been like for you over the past decade building the Hamlin Group. But, I'm really excited to see where you guys go. From here and beyond. I have no doubt that, you're going to continue to evolve and adapt and improve and grow, and I look forward to, continuing to be a partner with you and being able to watch your success, because it's always just really exciting to see people who genuinely, have that desire to continue improving themselves and their business. Those are the people that end up being the most successful. So for sure, I'm excited to be here and just be along for the journey with you to watch.
We say, we don't just use, JobTread. We're a proud partner with JobTread, and, really thankful for you guys and your team. We are becoming a better business because of what you guys are bringing to the table for us and the opportunities you're giving us. And so, my goal is to arrive at JobTread Connect next year, a different company, a different person, a different company, and not walking in and saying, man, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, but walking in and saying, yeah, I did that, and now look at the fruits of the labor that's happened in the last 12 months.
I love it. Can't wait to see it, Chad.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.